The stars of the Andromeda sector glimmered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Among them floated a massive structure larger than any planet, yet not a planet at all. It was the Arena of Champions, a place where the galaxy's strongest, smartest, and bravest beings came to test their skills. Today it would witness a challenge that no one could have predicted. Kale stood at the edge of the human delegation's platform, his chest rising and falling as he watched the grand arena below. The structure sprawled endlessly, a twisting maze of obstacles, shifting floors, and floating platforms. Aliens of every shape and color moved with ease, showing strength, agility, and intelligence in ways humans had never attempted. They spoke in harsh clicks, melodic tones, and sounds that almost seemed musical. Their confidence was intoxicating. At the center of the arena, on a raised platform of shimmering crystal, stood Zira. She was tall, with iridescent scales that reflected the light of 1,000 suns. Her eyes glowed with an intelligent fire, sharp and dangerous. Zira had long been celebrated as one of the galaxy's finest warriors, and she wore her pride like armor. Today she had an audience, and she intended to make them all remember her name. "Humans," she said, her voice ringing through the arena, amplified by technology that carried it across the vast chamber. "You are weak. You are slow. You are incapable of greatness. You belong on a world far behind the stars, not here, not among the worthy." Her words caused a ripple through the crowd. Many laughed, clicking their claws or stamping their feet in amusement. The humans, seated quietly on their platform, felt the sting of ridicule. They had traveled far to participate, hoping to learn, to observe, and perhaps to prove themselves. Now they were being dismissed before the first challenge had even begun. Kale did not flinch. He had heard these words before, not in this arena, not in front of a galaxy full of spectators, but enough times to know that doubt was never the enemy. The enemy was fear, hesitation, and the assumption that others knew your limits. Kyle's heart pounded, but it was not fear. It was determination. When the murmurs quieted, he stepped forward. His boots made a firm sound on the metal platform, and all eyes turned toward him. His uniform was simple, far less flashy than the armor of the other competitors. His weapon, a staff forged from human alloys, seemed almost laughable compared to the energy blades and plasma shields of the alien warriors. But Kale carried something else. He carried belief. "I will take your challenge," Kale said, his voice calm and steady. Even with thousands of eyes on him, he did not falter. "I am a human. I am not afraid to test my limits. I will show you what we can do." The arena erupted. Some laughed, some jeered, and a few, the curious, tilted their heads in surprise. Zira's eyes narrowed, her amusement sharpening into interest. "You?" she hissed. "You think you can face me? Do you even understand what you are saying?" "I understand," Kale replied, "and I accept. Today I fight not just for myself, but for every human who has ever been told they are weak." Zira's lips curved into a faint smile, one that did not reach her eyes. "Very well, human. You may enter the arena. Let us see if your courage is enough to carry you." The human delegation held its collective breath as Kale stepped onto the teleportation platform. A beam of light surrounded him, lifting him into the air, and in a flash he was transported to the arena itself. The air smelled different here, charged, electric, and alive with energy. The floor shifted beneath him as he landed on a moving platform, testing his balance immediately. Around him, the alien competitors prepared. Some were enormous, towering over him with muscular frames. Others were small and quick, darting across the arena like shadows. Some floated, some swam through the air, and all of them were armed with weapons that seemed capable of tearing a human apart with a single strike. Kyle gripped his staff tightly, feeling its weight and balance. It was simple, yes, but it was an extension of him. He had trained for years with this staff, learning how to move, how to anticipate attacks, how to use his mind as much as his body. He was not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but he was clever. He was observant, and he was fearless. The first obstacle loomed before him, a series of rotating platforms suspended over a pit of energy that shimmered like liquid fire. Most competitors leapt without hesitation, using strength or propulsion devices. Kale paused. He studied the platforms, noting their speed, the patterns of rotation, and the points where they wobbled. Then he moved. Step by careful step, he crossed the platforms, adjusting his balance with subtle movements of his staff. The crowd murmured. A human moving with such precision was rare. As he reached the other side, Zira watched closely. Her scales flickered with light and her eyes narrowed. This human had potential, she admitted quietly to herself, perhaps more than she had expected. The next challenge was not physical but mental. A holographic puzzle, shifting constantly, with pathways that appeared and disappeared at random. Competitors who relied on instinct or brute strength were already trapped, caught in loops of their own making. Kale stepped forward, studying the holograms. He noticed patterns others missed, rhythms in the chaos, and with careful moves he navigated the puzzle. The alien crowd grew silent. Whispers spread. The human is clever. By the time he reached the center of the arena, he was not only standing tall but drawing attention. Zyra's smirk had vanished, replaced by something sharper, interest, maybe even respect. She waved a hand, summoning the next phase, a combat test. Kale squared his shoulders as an alien opponent emerged from the shadows. It was large, with multiple arms ending in razor-sharp claws. It lunged immediately, fast as lightning. Kale ducked, rolled, and countered with a swing of his staff. The metal rang against claw and scale, sending sparks flying. He dodged, parried, and used his opponent's own momentum against it, forcing the creature to stumble and retreat. The crowd gasped. Sira stepped forward, her presence commanding the entire arena. Impressive, she admitted, her voice carrying authority. But this is only the beginning, human. The galaxy is vast and challenges grow far beyond this. Kale nodded. Then I will continue. I am ready. As he moved toward the next obstacle, he noticed other humans in the stands cheering quietly, inspired by his courage. He noticed aliens watching him closely, their previous dismissive smiles fading. He noticed Zyra, her eyes following his every move. And for the first time, Kale realized something. He had not only accepted a challenge, but he had begun to change minds. The arena shifted again, revealing a massive field filled with hazards, energy barriers, moving platforms and creatures that tested reflex and instinct. Kale advanced, analyzing each threat, thinking 2, 3 steps ahead. He did not run blindly. He did not panic. He adapted. He survived. And with every success, he felt a surge of pride. Not arrogance, but a quiet strength that came from knowing he was capable of more than anyone expected. Hours passed in the blink of an eye. Challenges came and went, each more difficult than the last. Kale faced creatures that towered over him, puzzles that bent the mind, and traps that could have ended him. Yet he moved forward with calm precision, guided by determination and an unyielding spirit. By the end of the first day, the alien crowd was no longer laughing. They were watching. They were whispering. And Zyra, the warrior who had once called humans weak, found herself curious about the capabilities of this species. Kale stood on the final platform, looking back at the challenges he had faced. His clothes were torn, his body weary, but his eyes shone with determination. He had proven something, not just to the aliens, but to himself. Humans were not weak. Humans were strong in ways that could not always be measured by size or technology. Zyra descended to the arena floor, her movements graceful, her scales glinting under the arena lights. She stopped before Kale, examining him carefully. For a moment, silence reigned. Then she spoke, her voice carrying both warning and respect. You have done well, human. But the challenges ahead are far greater. If you wish to continue, you must prepare yourself. Your courage has carried you this far, but only skill and strategy will carry you further. Kale nodded, gripping his staff. I am ready. Humans do not give up. We adapt, we learn, and we fight when others doubt us. A hush fell over the arena. The first part of the challenge was complete, but the real test had only just begun. Kale's journey was only starting, and somewhere deep inside, he knew that his actions today had begun something larger, a story that would be remembered across the galaxy. The stars outside the arena glimmered, and Kale looked up, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing down, yet also feeling an unbreakable spark within him. He was human, and humans were never as weak as others believed. Kale returned to the human platform, his body aching but his mind sharper than ever. The cheers from fellow humans were soft, restrained by awe, while alien spectators whispered among themselves. He had survived the first part of the arena, a feat most thought impossible, but Kale knew that the real challenges were still ahead. The path to victory would not be simple, and preparation was now more important than ever. Back on their home base, a barren planet orbiting a dim star, Kale and the human team began their intense preparations. The humans did not have access to the advanced alien technology that Zira and her species wielded effortlessly. Their weapons were simple, their armor basic. But humans had something the aliens often underestimated: ingenuity. Where the aliens relied on brute force or overwhelming power, humans relied on creativity, strategy, and adaptability. Kale started with physical training. He ran through rugged terrain, lifting weights fashioned from local metals, climbing sheer cliffs, and pushing his body to the limits. Every movement was calculated. He practiced dodging, balancing on unstable surfaces, and moving silently across rough ground. His staff, simple as it was, became an extension of himself. He learned to swing it with precision, to deflect attacks, and to anticipate the strikes of even the fastest opponents. Yet physical training alone would not be enough. The arena was not just a test of strength, it was a test of mind. Puzzles, traps, and illusions would challenge logic and perception. Kale spent hours analyzing simulations of alien tactics, studying how their species thought, and finding patterns in their strategies. The human team created mock arenas, filled with shifting platforms, energy barriers, and holographic puzzles. They pushed each other to think faster, act quicker, and adapt to the unexpected. Kale's best friend and teammate Lena, a strategist with sharp instincts, observed his training closely. "You can't just rely on instinct, Kale," she said one day, her eyes scanning his movements. "The aliens are precise. They anticipate patterns. You have to think 2, maybe 3 steps ahead." Kale nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "I know. That's why we need to combine strength with strategy. If we act too fast, we make mistakes. Too slow and we get trapped. The balance is everything." They practiced relentlessly. Humans fell, scraped their knees, and bruised their bodies, but each mistake was a lesson. Kale learned how to turn failure into advantage, how to remain calm under pressure, and how to anticipate the unpredictable. Meanwhile, Zira was also preparing, but in a very different way. Her training grounds were filled with advanced alien devices. Machines measured her strength, speed, and reflexes to the millisecond. She practiced combat maneuvers with other elite warriors, perfected her strategy with simulations that no human could match, and honed her weapon skills to near perfection. Everything about her preparation screamed precision and power. Yet Kale observed something even more important. While Zira focused on what she could control, strength, speed, and skill, humans focused on adaptability. They learned to use their environment, to improvise, and to exploit weaknesses. Kale realized that while the aliens relied on perfection, humans relied on possibilities. This was the edge he intended to sharpen. Kyle also studied the alien creatures and traps from the first part of the arena. Every motion, every pattern, every slight detail mattered. He noticed how creatures moved when startled, how platforms shifted under weight, and how energy barriers reacted to touch. He practiced countering these behaviors with clever tricks, rolling under, sidestepping at the perfect moment, and using momentum against the enemy. At night, under the twin moons of the planet, Kale and Lena would sit by the fire reviewing their progress. "Humans have one advantage," Lena said quietly. "We are unpredictable. No alien expects the unexpected from us," Kyle smiled, feeling the truth in her words. "Yes, and that will be our strength in the arena. If we think differently, move differently, fight differently, we can surprise them. Even Zira won't see it coming." Not all preparation was physical or mental. Kale spent time meditating, learning to control fear and maintain focus. The arena could intimidate the strongest minds, and he needed calm clarity to survive. He visualized every challenge ahead, imagined every trap, and rehearsed every possible scenario. His imagination became a weapon as powerful as his staff. The human team worked together like a well-oiled machine. Every person had a role. Some gathered intelligence about alien strategies, some practiced combat simulations, and others refined gadgets to aid them. Though their technology was basic compared to Zira's, their inventions were clever, built to exploit environmental advantages. One day, as Kale practiced on a floating platform simulation, he nearly lost his balance. He steadied himself just in time, and the platform shifted violently. Lena called out, "Kale, watch the edges!" Kyle gritted his teeth, gripping his staff, and leapt to the next platform. "That's why we practice," he said, landing safely. "The arena won't give us perfect conditions. We have to be ready for chaos." As days turned into weeks, Kale's confidence grew. He no longer feared the arena. He respected it, studied it, and understood that survival depended not only on skill but also on perception and adaptability. Every day he imagined Zira's eyes watching him, and he reminded himself she had underestimated humans once. She would not make that mistake again. The final stage of preparation came with strategy sessions. Kale studied holograms of Zira's past victories, noting patterns in her attacks and her problem-solving methods. He identified weaknesses in her approach not in strength but in predictability. Zira relied on power and skill, but if her moves were anticipated, she could be outsmarted. Lena looked at him impressed. "You're not just preparing to fight, Kale. You're preparing to think like her, anticipate her, and counter her." "That's remarkable," Kyle nodded. "Strength alone will not win. Skill alone will not win. But cleverness, speed, and teamwork, those will make the difference." On the eve of the next stage in the arena, Kale stood under the twin moons, staff in hand, gazing at the stars. He felt a sense of calm determination. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as weak and unworthy. Today that perception would begin to change. Today, Kale would carry not just his own courage, but the spirit of his entire species. The next day, Kale returned to the teleportation platform. His body was stronger, his mind sharper, and his resolve unbreakable. The human delegation watched silently, knowing that Kale's preparation had transformed him. He was no longer just a volunteer. He was a contender, ready to face the galaxy's finest. As the light of the teleportation beam enveloped him, Kale took one last look at his home planet. Every bruise, every scrape, every moment of struggle had led to this point. He breathed deeply, centering himself, and stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face Zira and whatever the arena had in store. The arena awaited, massive and daunting. Obstacles stretched endlessly, creatures roamed with lethal grace, and holographic puzzles shifted unpredictably. But Kale did not falter. Humans were resourceful, humans were brave. And Kale carried that truth like a weapon, sharper than any blade. When the light faded, Kale found himself at the center of the arena once more. Zira appeared across from him, her scales glowing under the arena lights. She smiled faintly, a mix of curiosity and respect in her eyes. "You have prepared well, human. Let us see if preparation can overcome experience." Kale tightened his grip on the staff. "Experience is valuable," he said calmly. "But courage, adaptability, and cleverness can turn the tide. I am ready." The arena shivered with energy as the next challenge began. Kale stepped forward, steady and confident. Every move, every thought, every heartbeat was part of his preparation. Humans were underestimated, but Kale would show the galaxy that being underestimated could be the greatest advantage of all. And so, the human warrior entered the arena, ready to prove that strength was not the only measure of greatness, and that the human spirit once awakened could rise to meet any challenge, even one set by the galaxy's most feared warrior. The arena was alive with energy, a vast expanse of shifting platforms, glowing barriers, and unpredictable hazards. Kale landed gracefully, staff in hand, his eyes scanning every detail. The crowd, a sea of aliens from countless worlds, fell silent as they noticed him. The human had survived the first stage, prepared meticulously, and now it was time for the first real encounter, one that would test his courage, intelligence, and skill against the unpredictable forces of the arena. From the shadows, creatures emerged. Some were enormous, with limbs like tree trunks and claws like curved swords. Others were small and fast, darting across the arena with lightning speed. Each one was designed to challenge strength, reflexes, and strategy. Most competitors would rely on brute force or advanced technology, but Kale had learned a different approach: observation, patience, and adaptability. The first creature lunged, massive and terrifying. Its eyes glowed with predatory intelligence, and its movement was swift despite its size. Kale took a deep breath, recalling the countless hours of training and preparation. He did not charge blindly. He watched, he waited, and he planned. As the creature swung its massive claw, Kale ducked low and rolled, using his staff to deflect its strike. Sparks flew, and the alien crowd murmured. The human was fast, faster than they had expected. Kale pushed off the ground, flipping over the creature's arm, and landed behind it. He noticed its rhythm. Each strike followed a pattern, leaving a brief moment of vulnerability. Kale seized the opportunity. With a swift strike of his staff, he tapped the creature on a sensitive joint. causing it to stumble. The crowd gasped. They had expected humans to falter, yet here he was, using skill and strategy rather than raw power. The next challenge appeared almost immediately, a maze of platforms that shifted constantly. Some platforms rose, others sank, and some spun at dizzying speeds. Competitors who relied on technology or sheer strength struggled, slipping and falling into energy pits that shimmered like molten metal. Kale moved carefully, analyzing the movement of each platform. He timed his jumps, gauged the rotations, and adjusted his balance with precision. When a platform tilted dangerously, he used the staff to hook and pull himself across, turning a hazard into an advantage. His every movement was calculated, graceful, and efficient. The arena's holographic systems created puzzles in mid-air, glowing symbols that changed shape and position constantly. To pass, one needed not only agility but intelligence. Kale paused briefly, studying the patterns. He noticed that the symbols followed a rhythm, a subtle pulse that others missed. With careful steps, he moved through the puzzle, triggering switches at the right moments and avoiding traps. Meanwhile, Zira observed from above, her eyes narrowing with intrigue. The human moved with a combination of speed, caution, and strategy that no one had expected. She had underestimated humans once, and she could feel her curiosity growing. Kale was not only surviving, he was adapting, learning, and even manipulating the arena to his advantage. A new threat emerged, an alien competitor, armed with a blade that shimmered with energy. It was fast, skilled, and confident. The crowd cheered, expecting the human to fall. Kale faced the alien calmly, his staff ready. The duel began. The alien struck first, swinging with precision and speed. Kale dodged, parried, and countered, moving in patterns that were unexpected. He did not match speed with speed or strength with strength. He used intelligence, anticipation, and careful observation. Each attack he avoided was a lesson, each counter a calculated risk. The crowd watched in awe. Aliens who had laughed moments before now whispered to each other. This human, small and unarmed compared to the alien warriors, was holding his own. Kale felt the weight of the moment but did not falter. He focused on rhythm, balance, and strategy. As the duel continued, Kale noticed a pattern in the aliens' attacks. It always left a small opening after a certain move. Timing his response, Kale used the staff to sweep the alien's legs, causing it to stumble. The maneuver was subtle but effective. Kale did not strike for victory immediately. He knew patience was as valuable as strength. When the alien recovered, it lunged again more aggressively. Kale sidestepped, using the momentum to spin past the attack. He tapped a glowing panel on the arena floor, triggering a small energy pulse that disrupted the alien's footing. The human had turned the environment itself into an ally. Zira's eyes widened slightly. The human's approach was unconventional, clever, and resourceful. She could see that Kale was not relying on raw power. He was relying on something far more dangerous: ingenuity. The duel reached a climax when the alien, frustrated, attempted a full-force strike. Kale anticipated it, using a combination of balance, momentum, and a quick pivot to redirect the energy against the alien. The creature stumbled, caught off guard, and Kale moved past it, advancing toward the next stage. The audience, once dismissive, erupted in whispers and cheers. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, but here was one who defied expectation. Kale did not celebrate. He pressed forward. Every step mattered. Every moment was part of a greater strategy. The next challenge was a floating field filled with hazards, spinning blades, shifting energy barriers, and creatures designed to confuse and trap. Most competitors relied on raw power to force their way through, often paying a high price. Kyle, however, observed first. He noted the timing of the blades, the patterns of the energy barriers, and the behavior of the creatures. He moved with precision, leaping, ducking, and rolling when necessary. He used his staff to push barriers aside, to hook onto platforms, and to steady himself on shifting ground. Where others saw danger, Kale saw opportunity. He manipulated the environment subtly, using it to create safe paths and disrupt potential attacks. By the time he reached the center of the field, he was exhausted but unbroken. His clothes were torn, his body bruised, yet his mind was sharp. Zira, watching closely, had no doubt now. This human was different. Humans were not weak. They were clever, resilient, and daring in ways that aliens often failed to understand. Kale paused for a moment, catching his breath. He glanced at the alien competitors who had fallen behind, noting their frustration and exhaustion. Many had relied solely on strength or technology. He had relied on observation, preparation, and ingenuity. The arena shifted again, revealing a massive creature, larger than any Kale had seen before. Its skin shimmered with reflective scales, and its multiple limbs moved in synchronized precision. It advanced slowly, but every movement radiated power. Most competitors would flee or attack recklessly. Kale stood firm. He studied the creature carefully, noticing its patterns, its weaknesses, and the slight delays in its movement. When it struck, Kale dodged, rolled, and used his staff to redirect its force. The creature, unprepared for this human's approach, stumbled repeatedly. Each misstep was small, but enough to keep Kale safe. Zira, observing intently, could not help but admire his approach. Kale's combination of calm focus, clever thinking, and adaptability was extraordinary. He had turned the arena into an ally, used every obstacle to his advantage, and survived threats that would have crushed others. Finally, Kale reached a safe platform at the edge of the arena. He had faced creatures, puzzles, shifting platforms, and alien competitors, all in a single encounter. He was bruised, tired, and battered, yet he had emerged victorious in the first real test. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Aliens whispered among themselves, some nodding in respect while others stared in disbelief. Humans had been dismissed as weak, yet here was one who had proven that intelligence, strategy, and courage could surpass raw strength. Zira descended from her observation platform, her scales glinting under the arena lights. She stopped before Kale, studying him carefully. Her eyes reflected curiosity, respect, and a faint trace of challenge. "You survived the first encounter, human," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You have skill, courage, and resourcefulness. But the arena is far from over. The challenges ahead will be greater, more unpredictable. Can you endure them?" Kale stood tall, gripping his staff firmly. "I have prepared and I am ready. Humans are not weak. We endure, we adapt, and we fight when others doubt us. I will face whatever comes next." Zira nodded slowly. "Very well. Let the next stage begin. But know this, your ingenuity will be tested like never before. One mistake and even the cleverest human will fall." Kale smiled faintly, feeling a surge of determination. "Then I will not make a mistake. Humans survive because we learn, we adapt, and we never give up. You will see that in the next encounter." As the arena shifted, revealing the next series of challenges, Kale prepared himself. Every skill, every lesson, every strategy from his preparation would be tested. He did not fear the unknown. He welcomed it. The human warrior had faced the first encounter and survived. For the arena had only just begun, and somewhere deep inside, Kale knew the galaxy was about to witness something extraordinary. The rise of human courage, intelligence, and resilience in a way no alien could have predicted. The arena had transformed. The once shifting platforms and scattered hazards were replaced by a wide, zero-gravity combat chamber. Platforms floated in mid-air, connected by narrow beams of light. Energy barriers shifted unpredictably, and holographic obstacles appeared without warning. This was no ordinary challenge. This was a duel. Kyle versus Zira, the warrior who had once called humans weak. Kyle floated in the center of the chamber, staff in hand, heart steady despite the weight of anticipation pressing down on him. Around him, the alien crowd watched from observation platforms high above. They whispered among themselves. Many still believed humans were weak, but some had begun to notice the pattern. This human was different, clever, adaptive, unpredictable. Zira appeared across from him, her scales shimmering with iridescent light. She moved with grace, each motion precise, controlled, and deadly, her eyes glowing with intensity locked onto Kale's. For the first time, she felt genuine curiosity about her opponent. She had faced countless warriors, but none had approached combat like this human. "Are you ready, human?" Zira asked, her voice calm but filled with authority. "I am," Kyle replied, steady and confident. "I fight not just for myself, but for every human who has been underestimated." "I will not disappoint." Zira inclined her head slightly. "Then let the duel begin." Instantly she moved. In zero gravity, her speed was astonishing. She launched herself toward Kale, energy blades flashing in the dim light. Kyle reacted immediately, pivoting with his staff, blocking strikes that could have cut through steel. Sparks flew as blade met staff echoing through the chamber. Kale did not attack recklessly. He observed, noting Zira's patterns, her timing, and the slight shifts in her weight. In zero-gravity, momentum was everything. One wrong move and he could be sent spinning into a barrier or a trap. He adjusted his movements carefully, using his staff to push off platforms and maintain balance. Zira's attacks were relentless, testing his speed, reflexes, and endurance. Kale parried, dodged, and countered in ways that drew murmurs from the alien spectators. He did not match her strength with strength. He used clever angles, timing, and environment to his advantage. Each strike he avoided, each movement he made, demonstrated his preparation, intelligence, and adaptability. The first clash ended with Kale landing on a floating platform, breath steady, staff ready. Zira hovered opposite him, circling like a predator. She struck again, faster this time, pushing Kale to react instantly. He rolled, flipped, and used the staff to redirect her momentum, sending her past him and forcing a brief pause in her assault. Kale realized something crucial. Zira relied on precision and power, but she underestimated the unpredictability of human thought. Where she expected direct responses, Kale countered in unconventional ways, turning her own speed against her. He had learned this approach in preparation, and now it gave him an edge. The duel continued, more intense with each passing moment. Platforms tilted, energy barriers shifted, and holographic hazards appeared, adding complexity to the fight. Kale moved fluidly, predicting not only Zira's attacks but the environmental challenges as well. He ducked under a swinging energy blade, spun around a floating pillar, and used a holographic projection to mislead Zira for a split second. That split second was all he needed. Zira noticed his tactics. Her eyes narrowed. This human was cleverer than she had anticipated. She adjusted, striking with unexpected angles and combining her attacks with the shifting environment. Kale countered, using every ounce of preparation and skill. The arena itself became a battlefield of wits, reflexes, and strategy rather than sheer strength. At one point, Zira launched herself from one platform to another, aiming directly at Kale with a downward strike. Kale leapt sideways, using his staff to push off the platform and swing around her. The movement was precise and calculated, allowing him to evade the attack while positioning himself advantageously. He struck gently, tapping a weak point in her armor to disrupt her balance. Zira grunted but recovered instantly, impressed despite herself. The crowd was mesmerized. Aliens who had once laughed now watched in stunned silence. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, yet here was one who not only survived but thrived in a duel against one of the galaxy's most feared warriors. Kale's movements were not flashy, but they were effective. Every decision, every swing, every step demonstrated the combination of preparation, intelligence, and courage that humans possessed. Zira shifted tactics, combining attacks with environmental manipulation. Platforms rose and fell, energy barriers pulsed, and holographic obstacles projected in unpredictable sequences. Most competitors would have been overwhelmed, but Kale adapted instantly. He used his staff to hook, swing, and vault across hazards, turning challenges into opportunities. His mind worked faster than his body, calculating risk and exploiting weaknesses with precision. The duel reached a critical moment. Zira struck with a combination of speed and power designed to overwhelm him. Kale anticipated it, spinning midair and redirecting her momentum using his staff. He landed on a narrow platform, staff braced against the edge, and launched a precise strike at a pressure point in her armor. Zira staggered slightly, enough to create an opening. Kale's eyes gleamed with determination. He knew this was the moment to act. Not recklessly, not with brute force, but with strategy. He moved quickly, using a combination of momentum, staff strikes, and careful positioning to keep Zira off balance. The duel became a dance, each movement calculated, each reaction measured. Zira recovered quickly, recognizing the human's ingenuity. Her eyes reflected admiration now, though she would not admit it aloud. She increased the intensity of her attacks, trying to force Kale into a mistake. But Kale remained calm, relying on preparation, observation, and adaptability. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The arena echoed with the sound of staff striking blade, energy pulses, and the faint hum of shifting platforms. Kale's body ached, yet his mind was alert. Every lesson from his training, every tactic he had rehearsed was now in action. He realized that victory was not about overpowering Zira. It was about outthinking her. Finally, Kale saw an opening. Zyra had committed to a wide, sweeping attack, leaving a brief vulnerability. He acted instantly, using the staff to redirect her momentum and guiding her toward a floating energy barrier. The barrier pulsed violently, startling her and forcing a momentary pause. Kyle seized the chance, positioning himself with precision and preparing for the decisive move. Zyra steadied herself, realizing her momentary lapse had given Kale an advantage. She admired his skill but knew the duel was far from over. Kale, however, had learned the most important lesson of all. Humans survive because they adapt, because they think differently, and because they never give up even when outmatched. With careful timing, Kale moved forward, striking with precision and exploiting the environment. Zyra attempted to counter, but the human strategy was unpredictable, fluid, and effective. She blocked, dodged, and shifted, but each movement was anticipated in part by Kale. The duel was no longer about raw power. It was about mind versus mind, strategy versus strength, and adaptability versus predictability. Finally, Zyra acknowledged the truth. This human was not weak. His courage, intelligence, and skill had allowed him to survive challenges that would have crushed others. She could not dismiss him. She could not underestimate him. And for the first time, she realized that humans, though small and technologically simple compared to her species, possessed a strength that could not be measured, ingenuity and the will to overcome any obstacle. The duel ended with both warriors hovering in the center of the arena, breathless but unbroken. Zyra's expression softened slightly, respect shining in her eyes. "You have fought well, human," she said, her voice calm yet firm. "Your courage, intelligence, and adaptability are remarkable. You have proven that humans are stronger than I once believed." Kyle lowered his staff, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. "Thank you. Humans survive because we adapt, because we learn, and because we never give up. Strength is not only measured in power but in courage and ingenuity." The alien crowd erupted in whispers and applause. Many were amazed. Some were skeptical, yet even the most cynical could not deny what they had witnessed. Humans had faced one of the galaxy's most feared warriors and survived, not through brute force but through skill, intelligence, and courage. Zyra regarded Kale one final time before stepping back. "This duel is over for now," she said. "But know this, the arena has greater challenges ahead. If you continue, your skills, courage, and ingenuity will be tested like never before. Humans are not weak, as I once believed, but the path ahead will demand everything you have." Kyle nodded, gripping his staff tightly. "Then I will give everything. Humans are resilient, adaptable, and brave. We will rise to any challenge." The arena shifted once more, signaling the next stage. Kale felt a surge of determination. He had faced Zyra directly and survived, earning her respect and the attention of the galaxy. But he also knew that greater challenges awaited, tests that would push him to the limits of his mind, body, and spirit. As Kale floated in the arena, ready for whatever came next, the arena pulsed with energy, shimmering under countless lights that reflected across floating platforms, energy barriers, and holographic obstacles. Kale hovered in the center, staff in hand, muscles tense and mind alert. He had faced Zyra directly and survived, earning her respect and the attention of the galaxy. Yet the greatest challenge remained. The final stage of the arena was not simply a test of skill. It was a trial of courage, ingenuity, and human resilience. Zyra appeared before him, her scales glinting with light, eyes sharp and focused. She moved with grace, every motion precise and deliberate. "Kale," she said, her voice carrying authority and respect, "this is the final challenge. The arena will test everything you have learned, your skill, your intelligence, your courage. One misstep could end it all. Are you ready?" Kale gripped his staff firmly, a calm fire burning in his eyes. "I am ready. Humans endure, adapt, and fight. Today I will show you what we are capable of." With that, the arena shifted violently. Platforms rotated at dizzying speeds, energy barriers appeared unpredictably, and holographic creatures emerged from every direction. Kale's senses sharpened. Every obstacle, every movement, every shadow became part of the challenge. He did not hesitate. He moved with precision, leaping between platforms, rolling past energy blasts, and using his staff to maintain balance and momentum. From above, Zyra watched carefully. She struck with speed and skill, aiming to test Kale's limits, but he anticipated her movements. Using the environment, he redirected her momentum, avoided attacks, and created openings. The duel had become more than combat. It was a demonstration of human adaptability, courage, and cleverness. The first trial within this final stage involved a massive, shifting labyrinth. Walls moved unpredictably, floors rose and fell, and holographic illusions created false paths. Many competitors would have panicked, Kale observed. He noticed patterns, subtle rhythms in the movement of the walls, tiny clues in the illusions, the way light reflected differently on real paths. Step by careful step, he navigated the labyrinth, relying not on strength but on observation and intelligence. Next, he faced a swarm of robotic creatures, each armed with energy blades and rapid reflexes. They advanced in coordinated waves designed to overwhelm and confuse. Kale did not attack blindly. He waited, observed, and struck selectively. He used momentum to dodge multiple attacks, redirected projectiles with his staff, and created small openings that disrupted the swarm's coordination. Each movement was precise, efficient, and effective. Zira descended into the labyrinth herself, striking at him from unexpected angles. She moved with grace and deadly skill, but Kale was ready. He anticipated her attacks, using quick reflexes and clever tactics to avoid her strikes. He knew she relied on precision and strength. He relied on unpredictability and ingenuity. Their duel became a dance in zero gravity, each testing the other's skill and mind. As Kale advanced, the arena shifted again, revealing a massive energy barrier that pulsed with dangerous intensity. Most competitors would hesitate, fearing the risk. Kale analyzed it quickly. He noticed a subtle rhythm in the energy pulses, a brief window of opportunity with every cycle. Timing his movements precisely, he leapt, rolled, and vaulted across the barrier, using his staff to hook onto nearby platforms. The crowd gasped in awe. Zira, impressed despite herself, increased her attacks. She combined brute force with environmental manipulation, striking with incredible speed and accuracy. Yet Kale adapted, using every skill he had honed during training. He blocked, dodged, and countered, exploiting tiny weaknesses and creating openings. The human's courage and ingenuity were on full display. The final obstacle was a massive holographic creature, larger than any Kale had faced before, with multiple limbs and eyes glowing with energy. It moved unpredictably, striking with blinding speed and crushing force. Kale did not hesitate. He studied the creature, noting patterns in its attacks, and identified a small delay after each strike. He moved carefully, avoiding the lethal blows and using his staff to redirect force. Step by step, Kyle pushed the creature toward a platform designed to trap or immobilize competitors. The creature resisted, striking with all its strength. But Kale's preparation and adaptability allowed him to remain one step ahead. With a final calculated maneuver, he directed the creature into the trap, neutralizing the threat. The crowd erupted. Aliens who had doubted humans whispered among themselves. Kale's skill, courage, and ingenuity had allowed him to survive challenges that would have crushed others. He had proven that humans were not weak. Humans were resilient, clever, and capable of greatness. Zira floated before him, her glowing eyes reflecting admiration. She lowered her weapon, stepping back. "Kyle," she said, her voice steady. "You have faced every challenge, survived every test, and adapted in ways I never expected. You have proven that humans are stronger than I believed. Your courage, intelligence, and ingenuity are extraordinary." Kyle lowered his staff, his chest heaving with exertion, but his mind clear. "Thank you. Humans endure because we adapt. We survive because we learn. We succeed because we never give up. I hope today the galaxy understands that strength is more than power. It is courage, creativity, and perseverance." The arena trembled with energy as the final announcement came. The human warrior Kale had completed every challenge. He had faced creatures, obstacles, puzzles, and Zira herself, and emerged victorious. Aliens of all shapes and sizes erupted into cheers, their previous doubts replaced with admiration. Humans, once dismissed as weak, had gained recognition across the galaxy. The human delegation, watching from their platform, erupted in celebration. They had believed in Kale, and now the galaxy had no choice but to acknowledge human capability. Lena ran forward, embracing Kale. "You did it," she said, her eyes shining. "You proved what I always knew. Humans can rise to any challenge." Kale smiled, exhausted but fulfilled. We all did it, he replied. Every human who worked, trained, and believed in this mission contributed. Today we have changed the way the galaxy sees us. Zira watched quietly, her mind replaying every move, every strategy Kale had used. She had faced countless warriors, but none had combined courage, intelligence, and adaptability as this human had. She nodded, a rare smile forming. You have earned your victory, Kale, she said. Humans are no longer to be underestimated. As Kale descended from the arena, he looked at the stars. He thought of Earth, of humanity's struggles and achievements, of the resilience that had brought him to this moment. Humans had always faced challenges, often underestimated, often dismissed, but they endured. They adapted, they succeeded, and now, across the galaxy, they were being recognized for the very traits that had always defined them. Back on his home planet, Kale and the human delegation were celebrated as heroes. Stories of the arena spread quickly, inspiring other humans to embrace courage, intelligence, and resilience. Kyle knew that his victory was more than personal. It was a symbol of human potential, a demonstration that even in a galaxy of advanced civilizations, humans could excel through determination, adaptability, and ingenuity. Zira visited Kale one final time before returning to her world. You have changed the way I see humanity, she said, her eyes reflecting respect and admiration. Your courage, skill, and intelligence have proven that humans are worthy competitors in any challenge. I will carry this lesson forward, Kale nodded. Thank you. Humans have always faced the impossible and found a way to rise. We will continue to do so, and one day the galaxy will see the full strength of humanity. As the sun rose over his home planet, Kale looked to the horizon, staff in hand, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. He had faced the impossible, earned respect, and proven that humans, though underestimated, were capable of greatness. The journey had been long, difficult, and exhausting, but the victory was sweeter because it was earned. And somewhere in the galaxy, stories of the human warrior, Kale, spread among the stars. A warrior who had faced Zira, survived the arena, and shown the universe that humans were not weak. They were strong, resilient, intelligent, and brave. Kyle smiled, feeling the weight of history and the spark of future possibilities. Humanity had begun to rise, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The stars shone brighter, reflecting the triumph of a single human warrior and the indomitable spirit of an entire species.